Hello and welcome to another edition of Through Imperial Eyes. My name is Braydon Leadbetter. I'm your host.
I'm your co-host, Jackson Daleen.
And yeah, thank you guys for tuning into our Star Wars Podcast Day special this Sunday. We had a lot of fun talking about all of our favorite Star Wars toys, so hopefully you check that out. If you didn't, it is on our podcast feed. And unfortunately, this week we will not be reviewing Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. We just haven't had time to get into it lately, so we will be for sure reviewing that next week. But other than that, I think that's all the housekeeping. What have you been up to this week for Star Wars?
Right now, mainly books. I'm digging hard deep into the Dark.
Yeah.
Which so far I'm actually really enjoying, and I'm excited to have that conversation. But I essentially have a bunch of Star Wars books saved onto my iPad that I just have downloaded as files, as PDF files. So I'm also I just read like the first two chapters of Last Shot, the Han and Lando book.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, it's fun starting off. It's very, very simple start off. Like I said, it's only the first two chapters. Hasn't even been a lot. So I'll probably finish Into the Dark and then finish Last Shot and go with that before more High Republic novels come out.
Yeah. Cool. So. I'm still working my way through my rewatch of the entire Skywalker saga. I just finished Force Awakens yesterday.
You're almost done.
Yeah, I love that movie so much. And I know a lot of people have problems with the humor in like the entire sequel trilogy, but I don't know what it is. I just love the jokes and the non-seriousness of a lot of the scenes in The Force Awakens. It's so Star Wars to me.
I think that John Boyega is hysterical.
Oh my God,
through the entire trilogy.
And even Harrison Ford has a lot of great moments in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
That's not how the Force works.
I think it's funny as the actors showing us what is very likely to be their real self is the funniest moments when put into a Star Wars situation.
Yeah, and I also it was the first time in a while that I watched Return of the Jedi earlier, and man,
I love Return of the Jedi.
That's like, it used to be my favorite Star Wars movie, probably like 5 years ago. But you can just tell how over Vader is of just being Vader. It's so great. Cause like you just see Anakin, I guess he's slowly starting to become Anakin again, becoming like, I'm so over this.
Well, I think it's funny the scene of Luke and Vader on the bridge in Andor, and Luke's like, you can change. Like, you realize that, right? Like, you have that power. And Vader's like, it's too late for me.
He's almost like I've done thought about
everything
it,
I can. I've done literally I sit back and he yells at me. No matter what happens, I just do whatever I can.
Yeah, but yeah, it's great. I'm having a lot of fun rewatching all these movies, so I'm really excited to watch The Last Jedi very soon. So yeah, what do we got up for news stories this week? I know we got a little bit.
The Bad Batch will be arriving sometime this spring. I'm thinking probably around like April, May area.
That's what I'm saying too.
Right before summer starts. At a press release from the official D23 website, it indicated that they were going to be doing a spring issue featuring content set to arrive before the period ends. This will include a feature dedicated to the Bad Batch. So that'll be cool. That'll be cool kind of getting, I think, just kind of I'm picturing like a content information, like just drop.
Yeah,
like
and I think they said there was gonna be like a bit from D. Bradley Baker, that's cool, like his overview on it. But yeah, it looks like we're starting to get into the marketing push for Bad Batch, which will be fun.
Which is cool. It'll be cool to finally, I think, besides meeting the team, I think it'll be cool seeing what side characters we're going to be seeing in that show.
Yeah.
I know, like, for sure Fennec Shand will be in it, but, like, who else? You know, I think characters from the Clone Wars movie or Clone Wars would be cool.
I think we'll see some cool characters pop in that show, and it'll be fun to see. It'll be fun to see my expectations be exceeded, because my expectations are already low, only because I haven't finished Clone Wars and I haven't like been introduced to the Bad Batch yet.
Yeah.
And I'm coming up on it. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes with this series, but I think we have another story. So the Andor series just announced a couple more directors. I think the first two directors that have been announced, and they are Ben Karen and Susanna White. I know Ben Karen did The Crown and Sherlock, a lot of British TV shows. He did a few episodes of The Crown and Sherlock. I really like Sherlock. I haven't watched The Crown, but I really love the tone of Sherlock. And Susanna White did Generation Kill, The Deuce, and Billions. I haven't seen any of those shows, but I know she directed a few episodes of those.
I haven't seen any of those either, but I've all heard they're very good. So
have you seen Sherlock?
I've seen Sherlock. I meant more of
Susanna White.
Susanna White.
Yeah. But what kind of tone do you think we're looking at for the Andor show? I mean, with the knowledge of these kind of directors are being announced, a lot of directors who are familiar with episodic storytelling. What do you think?
This is definitely, I say it, action drama. It's that the focus is that it's a drama, and all of the scenes will be very big, I think, kind of acting moments. But they will be kind of untraditional, dramatic scenes. It's not just people having a conversation in a house.
I hope we get nice and intimate with the characters.
Yeah, I think these are definitely people who are going to be able to achieve, I think, the vibe that Andor wants, which is, I think, supposed to be that gritty, spy movie. It makes me think of I don't even think I ever saw it, but the Kingsman, kind of that that spy, like an old spy movie that's not necessarily James Bond suave, but more, the dirt and grimy of.
Yeah. And especially, I really hope they get into, there's an all-star cast for this show.
Yeah.
So I really hope that we really get to see a lot of the cast and what kind of characters we're going to get out of this. Are there any directors that you have in mind to direct episodes of this series?
I don't know specifically. I mean, if we sat and kind of had the conversation about it, I think people like James Foley he did some episodes of House of Cards. I think that would be kind of a really neat kind of person to put in.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think that those writers and those directors were able to kind of give you the good political jargon that is House of Cards, but House of Cards is also really intense in the sense of people die in it. It's not just a politics show, it's dirty politics. So it makes me think of the dirty politics of the rebellion, which is kind of that unspoken thing that they talk about. And that's kind of Cassian Andor's whole thing in Rogue One is he's like, I'm the guy that they use to do the bad calls. I'm the one that they get for the dirty work. That's who I'm going to be. So I think that's kind of cool with that series. And I think the directors they have now will definitely fit in that.
I think this is where you bring in someone like Rian Johnson to direct an episode, because if you see his TV work he has a clean slate, because he did some of the best episodes of Breaking Bad. He's directed, I think, there was another show that he directed an episode of, but he is a great episodic storyteller. And I think that if we do get more film directors coming in to direct some episodes of these kind of shows, I think this is where you kind of slowly bring Rian Johnson back into the mix, especially because they announced his trilogy and then they just threw it away almost, because we haven't heard anything since it's been announced. And he's kept saying that it's still happening, it's developing, and we just haven't heard anything. I think this is where you can bring him in, but I'm not saying that I think they will. I just think this is a good opportunity for that.
This is an area for him to kind of
get his feet wet again.
His work. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what do we got next?
So the official Star Wars, I watched it on YouTube, but they kind of posted it everywhere. They've been doing character spotlights for the High Republic, and they just released the Chancellor Lina Soh one, which they're simple. They're 2.5 minute long. Here's this person, here's what they do, here's who they kind of are.
This kind of gets everybody visually introduced to all the High Republic characters.
The Lina Soh one for sure, and the Avar Chris one too was definitely just it talks about like the Lina Soh, when it talks about how Lina Soh stops the hyperspace lanes when the disaster happens, and it's like, and that's a controversial call, and I'm like, oh, so it's just quick summary stuff of just like especially Light of the Jedi. It just felt like a quick summary for Light of the Jedi stuff, but it's cool that we're seeing the characters. I especially and I like the art that follows it. I like being able to put like actual faces onto these characters, because that's always my thing, is I have to try and build some kind of image when I'm reading, and sometimes I struggle building the people's faces. So
I just love how it emphasizes how responsible of a chancellor she is.
Yes.
And how she actually does want what's right for the galaxy and right for the Republic.
I completely agree.
And I just love her character, and I'm excited to see where we end up with her by the end of the High Republic.
Yeah, I hope we see kind of more of her. I liked in Light of the Jedi the little chapters of her, and like her building a quick like, you know, conversation team just to kind of do a plan out. Who would you want to see as a character spotlight, just to kind of be that like full introduction, especially I think with the art and just kind of who they are?
I want a Porter Engle spotlight.
I want Elzar Mann.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have one.
They'll probably. I
give him
think
a couple weeks.
I think he's going to be the point of view, at least the quote unquote main character. The last two High Republic novels aren't necessarily main character books, but you know what I mean? Like the one who's kind of going to be the focus. I think he's going to be in the next big novel for High Republic.
Is it the Rising Storm?
Rising Storm, that's it.
Yeah, that's like the sequel, the direct sequel to Light of the Jedi. So
that's cool.
That'll be fun. Cool. So there was an interview with Kevin Feige, and they asked him if there is any possibility for a Star Wars MCU crossover, and he confirmed it is extremely, extremely unlikely for that ever to happen, and I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think it ever needs to happen, and I think that's that.
I'd be down for a crossover fighting game, like a Marvel versus Capcom, just Marvel versus Star Wars. If we do have to cross over, do it in a game. Do it in something that doesn't have to be canon. Because I don't know, I'm just not on board. Well, I think it's funny because like you read it and people think you read it and you instantly think like, oh, that's funny. Like that would never actually happen. But then like people are breaking down like theories of how it could work.
Well, there's like the Patton Oswalt, like the filibuster thing he did on Parks and Rec or whatever. Yeah, that I think, because I remember Patton Oswalt quote tweeted it, and he was like,
"Gauntlet of Mandalorian armor climbs out of the Sarlacc pit."
Yeah, but I don't see that ever being a possibility. But
it's just not needed. That kind of content.
What's next?
Game Rant dropped a little article and reported a rumor that a new shooter Star Wars game was in the works. The project has apparently been in development for more than 2 years now, and it's something closer to Star Wars Squadrons rather than EA's other Star Wars style games, Battlefront or even Respawn's Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I personally think it's going to be a Skywalker saga era. I'm trying to find the words to this. It's essentially going to be a Starfighter game that is covering all of the Star Wars eras. Because Squadrons is just post Return of the Jedi. It's like the year after Return of the Jedi, and it's about the final days of the war. And I think that since that got a lot of positive feedback, Squadrons was supposed to be just kind of a one and done quick arcade game. It was $40 when it came out. It was already $20 cheaper than normal average full game price, and there was no content updates that were going to happen at all. Like it was stated, like, yeah, no, we don't plan any content updates. And then it started being cosmetic stuff, but then it got to the point that they released new ships. They gave new things, like a new map and new ships, and not just small little stuff. So I think the fact that Squadrons was planned to be this game that almost was expected to bomb, didn't bomb, and now I think they're going to make a bigger, full on actual Starfighter game that will cover all three.
Yeah, much more story driven. Because I think I do agree. Squadrons was a lot more experimental and kind of just let's see how this goes, and if it does well, we'll expand on it. Yeah. So I really hope to see a nice in-depth Starfighter story game. That would be really cool to see.
I think it would be really cool to have something that recreates infamous battles that we've seen. I'm thinking Death Star 2. I'm thinking the Battle of Exegol. I'm thinking the Battle of Coruscant.
Battle of Jakku, yeah.
Yeah. Just, Starfighter, fights that you can have in big moments in the movies that we've seen.
Bring in characters like Sienna and Thane from Lost Stars. Like,
That'd
why
be
not?
Cool. Yeah.
That would be so cool. So moving on, just really quick, The Mandalorian got nominated for a Golden Globe and a Writers Guild Award, both for Best Drama, which, deservedly so. Season 2 was a great season. So yeah, congrats to The Mandalorian for getting nominated for those awards. Not sure about a win or anything like that, but it's cool that we're the Star Wars universe is still getting recognized in the professional space, so that's cool. But I think this is going to be our last story before we get into the questions. But Knights of the Old Republic, there's rumors that we're getting a remake from the makers of Jedi Academy. What are you thinking?
I think that's perfect. I'm playing Jedi Academy, and it's exactly what I want Knights of the Old Republic to be. I think Knights of the Old Republic is aged in the sense that it's a turn-based game. Not saying that turn-based games are bad, but they're not popular anymore.
Right.
Especially when it comes to Star Wars games, because I think people want immersiveness rather than gameplay styles.
Yeah, and a lot of times they want to play like they're in a movie.
And I think Jedi Academy is really good at making that feel natural. I constantly talk about the combat style in that game just because it just feels real. It's like I have to pay attention when my swings are hitting, but it's not something like Fallen Order where it's timed parrying and it's, that Dark Souls combat. It's more I have to kind of build my combat that way. I can fight however I want, but that's kind of the whole thing, is that it's up to my decision of how I want to battle. So I think
or
that'd
if
be
you're
cool.
me playing Fallen Order, I just button mash and hope something good happens.
That's how I play at Jedi Academy sometimes too. Just button mash the lightsaber fights. You'll get through it eventually. Yeah. You'll get killed a couple times, but you'll get through it.
That's why it took me so long to finish Fallen Order.
But I think that'll be cool, especially with Knights of the Old Republic. I think a good reboot that will essentially merge into the High Republic. Because I don't do like a sequel. Don't make the old Republic games.
Yeah, give us something that can tie into High Republic.
Yeah,
and,
I would say do a fresh start.
Give us new characters, and that'd be cool. Maybe even bring in some familiar characters, but make it new.
Cool. Do we want to do some questions?
Sure. Before we get into listener questions, I just wanted to. Someone asked Mark Hamill on Twitter a fun question, and I think it'd be cool if we answered it. The question was, what happens if you drop a lightsaber on the ground? Does it go through the planet? And I know Mark Hamill replied, and
he did.
He basically said, I don't know.
He was like, well, I've never dropped mine. He was like, so I don't know. And you're like,
but what is your answer to that question? What happens if you drop a lightsaber on the ground? Does it go through the planet or not?
I think it has the ability to, but I also think of, when like in Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are cutting
that is the first thing I thought about when I thought of this question.
It takes him a second because I'm like, it cuts through it, but I bet you because that metal's so dense, the lightsaber's got to, actually like cut and carve through it.
And I think it does take some force for a lightsaber to go through something. It's not just instantaneous. If you touch it, it penetrates it.
That's what I'm thinking too. So I think like a large enough mass, the lightsaber's not just going to just fall through.
It'll surely burn any ground it lands on, but I don't think it just immediately falls through and penetrates every single.
It's just this hole that just goes straight down. Like, oh,
yeah. I don't think lightsabers are like that, but. Cool. Yeah, I think we can move on to some listener questions from our Twitter and our Instagram. We got some questions from both social media platforms. This first one comes from @ARulFarmBoy, who is a great supporter of the entire Star Wars podcast community, and we're very thankful for people like him. But he asked, "Now, I ain't much a gamer. There's one Star Wars story that I love, and it's the story told in the PlayStation game Battlefront 2. The cutscenes play like a film. What's your thoughts?"
I actually want your thoughts on this first, because I know you're not crazy about the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign.
Yeah, I do like the campaign. I love the story. I thought the story for Battlefront 2 was awesome. I wish it was a little longer. I wish it went a little more in depth to Iden Versio's character, but I think her turn from Imperial to Rebel was really great, and I love her character arc. I think it would honestly make that story itself would make for an awesome like Disney Plus series. If you go to like cool. Live action, that would be cool. But I think it's cool. I like it. It fills in a lot of gaps between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens that we don't necessarily see otherwise. But yeah, that supercut of the cutscenes that he linked was it's I've seen it before. It's fun to watch.
Did you ever play that DLC where it introduces
Last Jedi one?
Yeah, Iden's daughter and all that.
Yeah.
I like the Battlefront 2 campaign. I agree. It should be a little longer. That game in itself, I think, is just gorgeous. It's got excellent lighting mechanics to it. So I think I completely understand how that campaign plays like film. It's just one big long story, and it's a good classic, leave the Empire, join the rebels, and understand what it means to have, moral righteousness and hope in your life.
And we're seeing so many of these stories now of like members of the Empire realizing the wrongdoings of the Empire.
Yeah.
And having to balance on that, that moral dilemma that I think a lot of people in the Empire ended up going through and never always acted on it.
I read the first Alphabet Squadron book, and in it, the first couple chapters is all about the main character, who is an ex-Imperial pilot who left her like really good squadron. Essentially, what had happened was that the New Republic formed like refugee camps for ex-Imperials who essentially had left. And like in the book, this place was called Trader's Remorse, and it was like this little like Hoover town of just like shacks and whatnot of refugee ex-imperialists who were just trying to find their way in the galaxy. And I think it's cool that that's kind of like, as especially with Second Death Star, a lot of people were just like be like, well, you got us, like, we'll call it that, we'll join your side.
Yeah, I just love that we're getting stories like this one, and like in Lost Stars, and we get Finn, and we get Bodhi Rook from Rogue One.
Oh yeah.
A lot of defected Imperials. I don't know what it is. I just love those kind of stories a lot. But moving on, the next question from our social medias comes from @JessicaFisherWriter on Instagram, and she asks, with the 9 films completed, do you think Anakin is the chosen one?
I do.
Agreed.
I do. Anakin wasn't destined to only 2 Jedi and only 2 Sith, two powerful Sith, which is, did Darth Bane implement that? Is that the
rule of 2?
Yeah, the rule of 2. Is that Darth Bane?
That is Darth Bane, yes.
Yeah, Anakin definitely did it. 2 powerful Jedi, 2 powerful Sith. Yeah, he definitely 100%.
And
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think Anakin is the chosen one, and he did kind of screw it up with his choices, and like, he wasn't a very good chosen one, but he was the chosen one.
Right.
But we have to realize that the Force evolves. And it's ever changing, and it works in mysterious ways. And I think that when he comes back to the light in Return of the Jedi, he kind of faces this moral test of, do I let the Emperor kill my son while I watch and then I'm just kind of stuck here forever? Or do I use this opportunity to make the right choice, kill the Emperor, save my son, and then just let my legacy be what it is? And I think that is kind of his way. That is his way that he brought balance, by killing Palpatine and letting the light go forth instead of being stuck in the darkness.
I agree with that. I think, too, it's funny that almost everybody doesn't necessarily, until like Rey and Kylo, does it fully kind of click that the Force needs to be equal.
Yes.
Because it's like, you know, the Jedi Order and Obi-Wan is all like, you were supposed to destroy the Sith. And that's eventually what they did with Luke. I think Luke was the chosen one of the Jedi prophecy of destroy the Sith and, you know, be the most powerful Jedi. And then Anakin's whole thing was destroy the Jedi and be the most powerful Sith, when there needed to be balance. And Anakin created balance until Obi-Wan died and until Yoda died. And then it was...
Well, yeah, and even in The Rise of Skywalker, with Palpatine's return and like Rey facing Palpatine and the Force calls upon her and, you know, all the Jedi come back and Anakin says, bring balance as I did. And that is the key right there. Bring balance as I once did. He did bring balance for a long period of time.
A good amount. Yeah.
And I think that was the prophecy. He brought balance to the Force eventually for a long time, but the Force, the future, as Yoda says, always in motion is the future. Things change. People like Anakin turn to the dark side. You know, I just think the prophecy itself was fulfilled, but that didn't mean that was it forever. There are things that change. Maybe the Force called upon Rey this time, or called upon Luke later on.
The Force is always moving and changing and expanding and going. And I completely agree.
To answer the question, yes, Anakin is the chosen one that we know of.
Well, cool. Let's do our next section.
Cool.
Our next question.
Yep. The next question comes from on Instagram at ConmanJFO, and he asks, where do you think Cal's arc will go in Jedi Fallen Order 2, excluding death?
So this is a question that I feel bad having to answer, because I don't know. I literally don't know. I don't know where they're going to take the Fallen Order stuff. I think they will probably continue trying to find like other Jedis. I wonder if they will try and work a way to where Cal Kestis is someone who helps start like a rebellion cell. Maybe that's like they become their own rebellion cell for a little bit and kind of do odd jobs and help fight the Empire. I think for Fallen Order 2, they'll have to introduce some new moment of engagement that will have to build that story. I don't think it's anything that we have seen, because the first one just kind of like it ends, you know? Yeah. Like we obviously know what's going to happen in the later years, but that story in itself ends, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think, it'll have to be something brand new, which would be cool. I'm excited to see brand new. Yeah.
I think it'd be cool if we did have run-ins, you know, with some characters that we do know. Like, I was thinking maybe like the Rebels crew. That would be cool. Boba Fett, yeah.
I want Cal Kestis to fight Boba Fett.
Yeah, or maybe like a Vader. It would be kind of dumb, but a Vader rematch.
That would be cool, though, to like he brings a bunch of Jedis to go fight Vader, and Vader just wipes them clean. Like
a 12-on-1.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And I just think it'd be cool to learn, you know, even more about Jedi lore and the Jedi of Christmas past.
It'd be cool, if Cal's kind of whole thing is to be he's trying to maybe you know what, I this is a complete just mock-up idea, but I think an interesting story would be Cal is trying to find ancient Jedi methods to help stop the Empire and stop people like Vader. So the whole game he's jumping through different temples and whatnot. And
I had that written down too. It'd be cool to see a lot more different Jedi temples, and maybe he does land on Ahch-To at some point, and it'd be cool to see that. I was also thinking maybe you get a little bit of Maul in there.
I was thinking that too. Do like
as a treat,
like Crimson Dawn be like the bad guys.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
But thanks for writing that question. Moving on. Our next question comes from @NickDucoteArt on Instagram, who asks, what's your favorite background characters? I know we kind of went over this last week, but let's kind of reiterate what we were talking about last week.
I found new characters that I had kind of
even more exciting.
So for a specific character, it's definitely it's Cabe, the little bat dude from A New Hope who takes the the cup from in Mos Eisley and kind of waddles away.
Yes, I love him.
But it's the other one. It's not a background character, but it's a background instance in Revenge of the Sith when Grievous and Obi-Wan are fighting. Right before Grievous ignites his lightsabers, there's two battle droids in the back, and one of them like gets the other one's attention to look at Grievous igniting his lightsaber, and it happens, and they're both that's so cool.
Yeah, I love that. Again, I don't know what it is, but Dexter Jester is just my favorite. I love him so much. And he just for no reason knows a lot about cloning and the all of the Camino stuff.
I wonder if there's a Dexter diner cookbook out there.
Yes.
A space diner food
Did
cookbook.
they ever make a Lego set for Dexter?
Oh, they probably did. I bet you even
we just need Dexter Jester, a Star Wars story.
I just want. Well, it's like the first Lego Star Wars game. It's the main had that area is Dexter's Diner.
Mm-hmm. The lobby.
Yeah.
Another background character that I love. Not really background. But Lobot.
I thought about Lobot too. That episode in Rebels is really fun with all the Lobots when they hack Chopper. Yeah.
And then some background Jedi we never really even hear speak, but Yarl Poof.
Yarl Poof.
My man with the neck. He got that neck.
Yaddle. Good old Yaddle.
Yep. Do we ever hear Yaddle talk? I think she says one word.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember. But I was kind of using the old Google machine to go through and just look for characters that I might not be thinking of right off the bat. And I remember loving this when I most recently watched The Phantom Menace. Ben Quadraneros? No. He's the guy in Phantom Menace during the pod race, and his pod blows up in the beginning and he can't do the race. That guy with the big, his whole body's a head. I love him so much.
Oh my god, it's the announcers in
poor guy.
The pod racing too.
It's just like space NASCAR. And then we got characters, like Paige Tico in Last Jedi. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of her and seen her relationship with Rose. That would have been cool.
My boy Bib Fortuna.
Your boy Bib. Yep. But yeah, I think we have one more question before we head out today. This comes from @SeanFallonWrites on Instagram, who asks, what is your favorite moment from each trilogy?
In each trilogy and the prequels, it might be the Battle of Coruscant. And I'm not picking the obvious favorites like the Darth Maul fight, the Mustafar fight. I'm thinking more of moments that I'm kind of I love everything post Anakin and Padme getting captured in Attack of the Clones. I love. Yeah. Nothing will ever get me. What are you guys doing here? Well, we got your distress signal. We tried to rescue you. Looks up as his chains. Good job. Gets me every time. Yeah. Original trilogy, it's the Luke and Vader fight in Return of the Jedi. It's the sole reason why I watch Return of the Jedi every time is their Emperor's throne room lightsaber fight just gets me. I think it's so good. I think it's...
And it has the highest stakes emotionally throughout the entire original trilogy.
Completely agree. Because the Empire fight, also good. That's such a scary and intense, closer to that movie. But I think that, the Return of the Jedi fight is just so much more at stake, so much more, on the table rather than it just being a fight for the first time.
Yeah.
For the sequel trilogy, it's probably the Starkiller base, Rey and Kylo fight, the snow fight. That's probably the most visually my favorite. I love Han Solo's death scene. I love that scene. That conversation between him and Kylo, I think, is just so good. I think it's really well written. I think the acting's really good in it because there's kind of just this staleness to the whole thing that it feels awkward, but it's like awkward because I'm so nervous kind of thing.
Yeah.
Love that.
In the prequel trilogy, I have a couple, neither of which I think a lot of people would expect. But for some reason, the first thing that came to mind was the scene, the moment where Anakin leaves his mother and we get that moment between them in Phantom Menace.
When they hug. Yeah.
And it just breaks me down every time. And the performances are so good in that scene too.
Mm-hmm.
And the emotional weight that entire moment carries sticks with me every time I watch that movie. And it just reminds me of, the power of love and a mother's love throughout the theme, that whole theme throughout the entire Star Wars saga. I really love that. And then also in the in the prequel trilogy, the Darth Plagueis the Wise story from Palpatine. I love it.
I love Star Wars opera. I love space opera. It's it gets me every time.
Yeah, and I love the performance from Ian McDiarmid right there. It's so Shakespearean, and
that is a really good
classic theater.
I'm sorry, I'll let you finish, and then I'll have this thing we can talk about afterwards.
Okay, all right. And then for the original trilogy, the first thing that came to mind was, and this is my favorite, probably Star Wars scene of all time, was Yoda using the Force to take Luke's X-Wing out of the swamp on Dagobah. And the music is perfect. The shots that are in that sequence is perfect. Just everything about it is so good.
Yoda's theme is one of my favorite songs in general.
Yeah. And I just love the shot of, we get the camera at a really high angle and it's cutting down on Luke with the landing gear for the X-Wing in the foreground. And you see Luke looking up at it. It's almost like a God's eye view kind of thing. And it just speaks to me. I love it so much. And then lastly, sequel trilogy. You'll be surprised. It's not from it's not from The Last Jedi.
Is it The Rise of Skywalker?
It is from The Rise of Skywalker because I misspoke. But so in The Rise of Skywalker, the Battle of Exegol, we get a moment where we think all hope is lost. All of the X-Wings are, they're like falling to the ground to their death. And all of this huge fleet that Lando brings with him when he comes in. And one of the First Order officers, or I guess it's called the Final Order now, says something along the lines of, where did this Navy come from? And then someone says, well, it's not a Navy, it's just people. And I love that moment. Chef's kiss.
The good.
It's so good.
So that's everything that we have today, but some stuff that popped in my head later on. We forgot, happy belated birthday to John Williams, the master behind
the maestro,
the sound of everything in our favorite Star Wars, a legend in himself. This popped in my head when we were talking about the opera scene, the Darth Plagueis scene. Have you watched Backstroke of the West? Do you know what it is?
I do not even know what that is.
It's all on YouTube, the whole thing. It's essentially a Chinese dubbed version of Revenge of the Sith that was then Google translated back into English, and then Google translated back into Chinese and then back into English and then redubbed with new actors that are pretending to be in the movie.
What?
And it's nonsense. It's just gibberish the whole time. But all of Anakin's and Palpatine's scenes is just incomprehensible. Just the Darth Plagueis scene is just absolute nonsense, and it's top notch. It's so good. Anakin's name is Ala Gold. Obi-Wan is Ratio Tile. General Grievous is Space General.
Space General.
It's literally like, my position in the advantage is higher and better than yours. I have the high ground.
I have to watch this.
It's so good. My favorite is when Anakin is hanging on the elevator shaft and the door opens and the two droids pop down and look at him. Instead of just the like show us your hands, the droid opens up and goes, raise the hand too, boy. And it's the whole movie's like that. It's too good.
I love that. I have to watch that.
The voice acting's also pretty good too, except for Yoda, who's just like some girl. Like not even doing not even doing a Yoda voice. It's just someone just talking.
Nice.
Yeah, so well, I'll leave you off with that.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and cue the music, but thank you so much for listening to this new edition of Through Imperial Eyes. You can find us on Instagram at Through Imperial Eyes Pod, Twitter at Imperial Eyes Pod, and on YouTube you can search us up Through Imperial Eyes Podcast. You'll find us there. Jackson, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Quackson Scalene. That's Quackson, and Scalene like the triangle. And then you can follow my photography Instagram at Daleen_photography, and Daleen is spelled Daleen. Where can they find you, Braydon?
You can find me on Instagram at braydonleadbetter and on Twitter at braydathalon. And don't forget, next week we are reviewing Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. We're having a lot of fun getting into it, and we will express all of our spoilery goodness thoughts next week. And also don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really, really helps the show. At least leave us a rating. A little written review would help too. Follow us on Spotify, all those podcast streaming platforms. But if you do want to ask questions for next week, we will be taking questions. So hit up our Twitter, Instagram, any of our socials. We do take questions 24/7 on there. And if you want to leave us a voice message, we also have that option on our Anchor. So hit up our Anchor, and you can send us a voice message, and your voice will appear on the show. But do you have anything else to add, Jackson, before we head out today?
No, I think I'm good, actually. I think I've got everything.
Cool. Well, we will see you next week for our review of Claudia Gray's Into the Dark. But until then, may the Force be with you.